What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Broadway Joel, and I'm here with Bob Santos. Welcome back to the show. Is the voice of Dominican boxing is always happy when Bob Santos is on the show. How you doing, my brother?
Great. It's always great to be with you. You know that.
For sure, for sure. I'd be remiss if I don't start off the show by talking about two of your former fighters who just fought a couple weeks ago. Uh, Alberto Puello just became the WBC champion, and Carlos Adames defended his WBC championship. I wanted to start off with Puello. How did you feel about his performance against Gary Antoine Russell? Many were picking against him. Many saw him as the underdog, and he ended up pulling up an upset with a point being taken away from him, which I thought was ridiculous. But what's your opinion on Puello's performance?
I thought he had a masterful performance. I mean, he did what he always does. He's a tremendous fighter from distance. He's got that great amateur pedigree. He's got a tricky style, good movement, good length, and I thought he had a masterful performance. And when you look at the fact of the type of competition level that he was in there with a guy obviously that had stopped every single opponent that he had before him. So when you take those things into account, level of opposition, that guy's punching power, I think he gave him a lot of fits with the movement. I thought he was on point and he looked really, really sharp. I was happened to be there ringside that night. And I'm super, super happy for him because, I enjoyed my time with him. We're still friends to this day. And I'm very, very, very happy for him and his family.
Were you surprised at all that Gary couldn't seem to cut the distance? Couldn't his power didn't really seem to bother Puello at any moment? Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, it was a little bit. I thought he would have gave Puello a little bit more fits on the inside, but Puello did a good job of tying up. Gave good movement, like I said, and he didn't allow him to really get his feet set and get into his game. And so basically, Puello to me dictated what he needed to do, and Antoine Russell kind of fell victim into the fact that had I been in the corner of Gary Antoine Russell, and I'm sure that they were telling him that. I'm sure his brother, he has to have some understanding. It was a lot of head hunting. He should have been working the body up and down a lot more. The times that he was able to get Puello into the ropes, again, tons of head hunting. And so he kind of fell victim and prey, and maybe because he's thinking to himself, hey, every fight I've won by stoppage. Sooner or later I'm going to get to this guy. And lesson learned for him, once you start stepping up the food chain to the elite level and guys that have been there and done that, you got to mix things up. You can't just be a one-trick pony.
Okay, all right. Carlos Adames also was on that same card, June 15th, on Javante's undercard. He didn't have such an impressive performance, to say the least. This is an opponent that was his first fight at 160. Had never been knocked out, but it seemed I was very confused as to what Carlos' plan was and why he threw so little punches. You being his former trainer, what did you see that he didn't do in fights with you?
Well, Adames is a tremendous talent. He's a very explosive fighter. I don't know what the reason being was that night. Like, he got the win. You move on to the next thing. So that was real good for him. I'm happy that he got the win. But I was kind of remiss. I was perplexed by the performance. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the background, but in terms of, I know how explosive he is. Goucher, that being said, obviously I had Laura, who I managed, who fought Goucher, and we dropped him. Laura's not as explosive as Adames by any stretch.
Really?
That being said, that's a couple years back. So Goucher is much longer in the tooth now. I expected Carlos to stop him. There's no two ways about that. I think he was capable of stopping him. I don't understand what the mindset was or whatever, because Carlos is a tremendous talent. He's a tremendous talent. Um, and I think because his talent is and everybody in and around him knows what the talent is, I think sometimes, he becomes a victim of his own talent because you're expecting, this. And if it's anything outside of that, then people are kind of like, well, you're the boogeyman. And when you portray yourself that way, you got to go out there and go get it. And, you look at the performance with J Rock, he went out there, that's a former unified champion, a world champion. He went out there and stopped them. Goucher is nowhere near the puncher that J Rock is. I don't think he's nowhere near the fighter that J Rock is, a motivated J Rock. And in 30 pro fights, the guy has like 14 knockouts. So I don't understand why he didn't press him and really step up the gas. And then, you're looking again too. I think that was his lowest punch output of his career at that level. So I'm kind of perplexed at what the situation was with that. I don't know. Maybe he had a hand injury. I don't know.
In between rounds, I know you said you were live at the fight. So in between rounds, his trainer, Ismail Salas, was telling him, "Don't go southpaw. Please don't try new things. Don't stay orthodox. Don't go southpaw." And we know that when Carlos was with you, he went southpaw often. And in fact, the J Rock fight, I feel like he fought most of that fight southpaw.
And,
Uh,
and and also we did, with the Montiel fight.
mhm.
So I like to have the flexibility. He's capable of doing it. He's a great fighter from both sides, from the left side or from the right side. So for me, I think I like to let him get a little bit creative in that regard. Um, for me, I liked him to be a little bit more offensive, more aggressive, because I know what type of puncher he is. And I just thought that brought more to his career. And you probably know this better than anybody in this sport. When you're a Dominican and you're not from the United States, it's unfortunate. All things are not equal in life. All things are not fair in life. But you got to go out there and you got to show out. You know what I mean? It's not like you're Canelo and you could just show up and 40,000 people are going to show up to the arena. You got to sell out. You got to give the fans something that they're like, wow, this is impressive. I understand you got to win. You don't want to take chances. But I think in his case, when you have a guy who has 14 knockouts in 30 pro fights, who's going up to 160 for the first time, and he's long in the tooth, I think you press the guy and you take his ass out. And I think Carlos is capable of doing that. But, I don't know, did he have a hand? I don't know.
I got you. You currently training 3 Dominicans, and I want to go down the list of them, and then you tell me what you've seen from them in the gym, as well as what's to come. And I first want to start off with Luis Reynaldo Nunez. I remember when he first got sent to you, I was telling you how hard of a worker he was and how good he was. How has he been with you in Las Vegas training?
He's been great. I mean, I think the world of him. He's been great. I've had no issues with him, no problems with him. Um, the only problem we have is, no opportunity to fight. That's what I'm saying. As a Dominican, when you get those opportunities and they're a little bit more infrequent than, say, some of these other guys that have these big time, the Mexicans got the big time followings, the Puerto Ricans really come out. Hopefully we could get that to that point with the Dominicans where they really get behind their fighters and the demands there for them. They get more opportunities. They are getting opportunities for sure, but we want to see many more opportunities. Again, here's a guy who's top 5. I think he won 2-3 eliminators, and he's nowhere to be found in the ring. So it's just unfortunate from that point of view. And I think that's the only frustrating part we have with him. We see what he does in the gym, how hard he works, the sparring, everything that he puts in, the road work, and he's been a delight to work with. But again, he's been out of the ring for over a year, and that's just unfortunate.
Ron Katz said on Twitter to me that he turned down a fight with Stephen Fulton. I found that hard to believe. You that are closer to the situation, is there more to that story?
Look, Luis Nunez, like I said, he's been in there in eliminatory fights. He's not going to turn down anybody. You got to have the opportunity. I mean, you're telling me you get a fight with Stevie Fulton, You wouldn't take that opportunity. Of course, he's going to take the opportunity. Unfortunately, the opportunity is not exactly there for it to be had. So, um, again, I just don't know what's going on from the
Is there something
business.
more? Is there something more behind the scenes that you can't speak about?
No, I just don't. I don't. I don't know. It's
Okay.
when I talk to the people, it's like, hey, we're ready. Whenever you guys have something for him, he's ready. He's in the gym. He's staying ready. He's doing everything. He's trained with me for almost a damn near year now,
Yeah, I
and
remember when I went. I went last summer.
yeah,
He was over there, and
yeah.
he
So
hasn't had a fight since.
he's been with me for the most part. He puts in the work. He does everything that's asked of him.
Mhm.
I think he's just frustrated that he hasn't had an opportunity to fight, and you know, I guess that's the business side of boxing, unfortunately.
Oh, well, you also got Jason Rosario training with you. Jason Rosario, we know him to be a former unified champion, a guy with a lot of power, but recently has taken a few knockout losses and decided to step away from the sport. And then recently decided that he wants to start his career back up because he's still a young man and thinks he still has gas left in the tank. What have you seen from him so far in sparring and training, his dedication level, his dedication to his diet, and his effort to be, better in boxing? What have you seen from Jason so far?
Well, I can tell you this: if you talk to Carlos Adames, if you talk to Alberto Puello, you talk to any guy that's ever worked with me, one thing about me, I'm going to leave no stone unturned to win. If you're not about winning, then you're not going to be around me. I'm not here for your 10% paycheck. I could care less. I'm here to win. And I'm a very competitive person. He wouldn't be with me if I didn't think that he was going to pay the price. And he knows that the first sign of you going sideways this way, that way, the other way, there's the door. I'm here for you. I'm going to show you love. I'm going to give you everything that you need to do. But there's a discipline, there's a responsibility that you need to give to your family, to you, to the sport, and to us as a team. And so he knows that, and he's been doing everything that's been asked of him. I'm very delighted in everything that I've seen with him. Sparring is sparring with 16-ounce gloves. We're gonna have to see what happens when you get those 10-ounce gloves on. But he's a tremendous puncher. There's no two ways about that.
Mhm.
He's a dog. There ain't no quit in him. So really, what it comes down to him is, what are you willing to do? What do you want versus what do you want more? And that's what it comes down to with him.
And do you see the desire in him?
He's working every day. He's doing everything that I asked with him. Matter of fact, we had a great sparring session today. So I'm very happy with everything that he's doing. And now it comes down to, you got to live a clean lifestyle, outside of boxing. And he knows I've had discussions with this. I'm sure we all know about his personal issues. We all have personal issues. I've had my personal issues in life. We all have to go through those adversities. At the end of the day, you got to get focused. You got to get cleaned up. And like I said, what do you want versus what do you want more? And let's hope that the things he did outside of the ring in the past don't have lingering effects. And if that's not the case, then I expect him to be fine. The punching power is there. So now we just got to tighten up his defense, and things of that nature, because obviously he's been stopped a couple times to the body. That's no secret. So I got to really pay attention to defense with him in those areas. And we got to make people really pay a price if they're trying to get to his body. And I think as long as we keep working hard, keep training hard, he keeps putting in the road work, he keeps putting in the eating correctly and doing those types of things. I think he has a great opportunity. I think we could get in a good solid fight, and he gets a good win there. He's got a big name. He's a former unified champ. Not too many people can say they've ever done that in this sport. It's one thing you win a title. There ain't too many guys that have been unified champ, with multiple titles. So I think if he can do that right away, we can get him in a title fight. So he knows it's there. His career's on the line. He knows that this is a do or die situation. And like I said, if he can get a good solid win, which I believe that he can, then he's right there in title contention.
How long has he been training with you, and how much improvement have you seen since he's been with you?
He's been with me quite a while now too. So he's in an unfortunate situation right now too, because a lot of guys, believe it or not, we've had some fights back out already, and a lot of guys, oh yeah, we're willing to fight, and okay, let's make this thing happen, and some pretty good solid names, and for whatever reason, at the last second, they really back out on the fight because I don't know, maybe they feel like at this point, yes, he does have a pretty good solid name. He's a former unified champion, but the one thing they do know is that he's a puncher, and I think the other thing that they do know is the combination. I'm not just saying me, it's a reputation that's been built over time, but people do know when you come with me, we're coming to bring it. So there's no two ways about that. We may not win, but I can guarantee you one thing: you can't win them all, but you'll know your ass was in a fight with us. That's for damn ass sure.
How much has he improved under you?
I think he's improved. Obviously, me and you have had these conversations in the past. Um, I don't want to change his style too much. I'm a coach that doesn't believe, a Cuban has a certain style that they have, a Dominican has a certain style that he has, a Mexican has a certain style that he has, and there's certain things I don't think you want to take away from those guys when they've been doing it since they're 8 years old. So you just want to add, a layer or two, a couple little wrinkles here, some things that you have in knowledge that you can bring to the table. I think where he's going to have you're going to see a much more enhanced jab. He didn't use a jab a lot. I think you're going to see a lot more of that with him, a little bit more feigning. And obviously we're trying to get his head off the line much more than it was. I mean, he's a come forward banger. There's no two ways about that. But I think if we can add a couple wrinkles, get his head off the line, get him to use a jab a hell of a lot more, going up and down with that, and you add those couple things to his fastball, a couple little change ups here and there. Dominicans love baseball, you know that. So that fastball, you start adding that little change up, that little, a little sinker,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Little off speed pitch. If we can do that and change his speeds a little bit, it's nothing that has to be drastic. I think you'll see a vast improvement in him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, that's exciting stuff. Another fighter that you trained that I want to talk about is Hector Luis Garcia. Unfortunately, he's coming off back-to-back losses. His last performance, I wasn't too happy with. I felt like he left a lot of meat on the bone, for lack of a better word. Like I felt like he could have pushed the fight more, and he didn't. And so far, he's not in Las Vegas training with you. I saw he just had a baby. And talk to me about where do you see his future as far as in boxing? It kind of seems like he's, at least I can't base it off too much on social media, but it kind of just seems he's a bit checked out. From your perspective,
Broadway. One thing I like about me and you, there's no bullshit. We're not going to be here to bullshit people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The desire that he had in the Chris Colbert fight, that's all him. That was all him. Nuts and guts. 3 weeks. That's all him. That was all him. Give him all the credit in the world. The Gervonta fight, we just seen what happened to Frank Martin. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We know what Gervonta's done to so many different guys. We got to the 9th round. We got further than Ryan Garcia did. We got further than Frank Martin did. And that's a tribute to him and the desire at the time. I think, unfortunately, I'm not saying that we wouldn't have got knocked out. We've talked about this on the show. I'm not saying that we would have knocked out. Bob Santos said they would have won the fight if they didn't have that melee. It wasn't even a melee. 2 guys pushing, and the guy goes and calls a timeout. And Gervonta, you're my guy. I talk to you all the time. You know damn well you called that timeout because before that round, he knows that. That's a timeout. He's the only guy in boxing who was able to call a timeout. So when you look at that, the round before, hey, what round is it? What round is his legs are sticking out? And he's getting a little bit gassed because we're getting him with some pretty good body shots. It was a very competitive fight. He was able to call that timeout. Hector lost a little bit of focus. We got back in there when it got started. About a minute and a half goes by. He gets caught with the big shot. It is what it is. And my assessment of it is, you're making career high paydays. And it's that old saying, it's hard to get motivated when you're in those silk sheets, right? So when we went to go fight Lamont Roach, taking nothing away from him, it was a close fight. We ended up losing on a 10-8 in the last round with a punch that never landed. It was a hook behind the head. Now, that being said, the referees are human beings too. They got to make bang, bang decisions. The fight never should have been that close. And Hector knows that. I was telling him in the fight, look, you got to move your hands more. He's not doing much. You're not doing much. But if we do a little bit more, you're definitely going to be the clear-cut favorite in this fight. And in his mind, he told me, Coach, I thought I was winning the fight. You were winning the fight. The problem is now we're in the 12th round, and a 10-8 round cost you the fight. But you left it too close, and unfortunate. It's a subjective sport. One judge sees it this way, another judge sees it that way. So you got to be predominant to a degree. So he, should have been letting his hands go a little bit more. I don't think he was, wanting to take too much risk because, like I said, in his mind, he thought he was winning the fight. I was imploring him to move his hands a little bit more, and I think the talent's there. What we got to do with Hector is the desire, the want. And, I talk about this with him all the time. Like I said, we don't pull no punches here, me and you, no bullshit. You got to have the desire. You can have the talent, but you got to have the want. You got to have the desire. And if that's not the case, it's going to be very hard to win at, the elite level. But I think as long as he gets the desire and want back, he can compete with anybody. But that's up to him. And only he can look in the mirror in his heart. I can implore him as much as I want. His mom can implore him as much as she wants, but at the end of the day, that's something he's got to look within inside of himself. The talent's there. How bad do you want it? Like we always say, what do you want versus what do you want more?
Is desire something you can get back? Is that something you can lose and then get back?
You know what? What's funny is because we're talking about, Jason Rosario, Banana, right? So I've done a couple of interviews where a lot of people are saying like, oh, he's done, he's shot. I go, well, you're the same people that said James Toney was shot. And you could talk to James. I've been in a lot of camps with James. Well, his career's over. He's on the couch. I remember James was 300 something pounds, and he knows this. And so he had nowhere to go. He's basically homeless. He was living on a mutual friend of ours' couch, if you could believe that. And pretty much done. Got himself back into the gym, kind of a fat cat. Got back in, got a fight, got another, boom, light heavyweight champ, boom, cruiserweight champ, boom, heavyweight champ. Right? So it can be done. It can be done. It's been done. It's been done. James Toney has proven that. There's guys that have done it. You just got to get that want and desire and that motivation back.
All right. Another one of your fighters, and I think he is one of the most underrated fighters currently in boxing. Mario Barrios is rumored that he's going to be fighting Manny Pacquiao. Do you have any info on that? When, where is it confirmed?
No. So the bottom line is with that, obviously that's a fight that Manny wants. He's a legend. You know what I mean? So, and obviously that's a fight that we want too. The WBC obviously wants that. And so now it just really comes down to, where can you make the fight happen? Is it Vegas? Is it Texas? So those types of things need to get worked out. But for the most part, all parties want the fight. I think it's a great fight. He wants to, obviously, set the record for his age to do it as a welterweight. And a lot of people say, oh, he's a little bit too old. He's a little bit too this and that. I says, well, at the end of the day, you're the same guys that said Bernard Hopkins couldn't do what he did when he won the championship. You're the same guys that said that he would never beat Keith Thurman. And oh, yeah, but that's 4 years ago. Yeah, but you said the same thing after he got knocked out by Marquez at 33. He's never going to be the same. Then he goes on and he beats Keith Thurman. At that time was considered the best welterweight in the world. So, it is what it is. You leave no stone unturned. He's a legend. You look at Roberto Duran, what he did with Iran the Blade Barkley. You never thought he was going to beat a guy like that when he got knocked out by Tommy Hearns, had the no mas with Sugar Ray Leonard. So at the end of the day, people got to recognize one thing. You only got to be good on that night. Sometimes I ain't even got to be better than you. I just got to be better than you tonight.
Okay. All right. I like that. I like that perspective. I was in the gym and I remember you had Demler Zamora who was in your gym.
Yeah.
Last I spoke with him, you were his manager and he's currently signed to Top Rank. Can you explain to the people your relationship with Demler and what do you think of him as a prospect?
I think he's a very, very solid prospect. We had a parting of the ways mutually. I think the world of the kid. I actually was the one that first brought him over to Top Rank. I'm very good friends, obviously, with Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler, and I like the work that they do. Obviously, my main guys is obviously Louis DeCubis Jr., Al Heyman, but that being said, I have good relationships over at Top Rank, and I think he wanted to have a little bit more TV time early on in his career, and so I thought, it's probably best for you to maybe go that route if that's what you want. We're Top Rank early in your career, can have you on TV, and that's kind of what they wanted. And I brought them over, to meet with Brad Goodman, meet with Bruce Trampler, and and gave him his release to go work with James Prince and Jack Edwards, who's a very good friend of mine. He's very, very, very tight with James Prince, and so we wish him the best, and hopefully everything works out for him over there.
Why'd you guys decide to part ways? It seemed like you
Well,
guys worked well.
well, the thing about it is, sometimes you have a vision for something, and they have a different vision.
Hmm.
And so, we can agree to disagree. I have a way of what I think is best for you. You may have a way of what you think is best for you. And sometimes, I have a distinct feeling at some point down the line. Not always, nobody's perfect, but I have a distinct feeling down the line that at some point they're going to recognize and say, wow, it wasn't always what I thought it was. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
sometimes have a vision of, I think it's this. And later on, when you're in this sport, you realize, wow. And that's happened to me when I was first in the sport. You know what I mean? And I first started managing or training. I'm like, well, this can't be. It has to be this. That just common sense. It would be this. And then you find out, no, it's actually this. And being around guys like Shelly Finkel and being around the business and Brad Goodman and Louis DeCubis Jr. And the more you're in the business, then you kind of understand the ins, the outs, and that can only come with experience. And obviously, his father, with his kid, this is his first pro fighter that he's worked with, and so I hope everything works out the best for them. Like I said, I think at some point they'll realize what I was trying to do, but they're in good hands with Brad Goodman. Brad's a great friend of mine. I talk to Brad all the time, and Bruce is a great people. They're great people over there. So I think he's in good hands, and hopefully everything works out for him the way they want it to work out. But they'll have an understanding of which direction I was trying to guide them in.
Okay. Okay. Are you still co-managing Erislandi Lara?
Yeah, of course. I talk to Laura all the time. I've been with Laura for a long, long time.
What's next for him? We know he's a middleweight champion. I spoke with Adames. He said he's not interested in fighting or unifying with him because they're friends, and as well as they have the same trainer. So can you talk to me about what's next for him in his career?
Well, I think in terms of Adames, I know Adames pretty well. The mindset. I think I think he was being a little bit politically correct on your show. If that's an ingratiating terms in terms of, I think Adamas would love to fight Lara.
It's not what
Um,
he told me. It's not what he
no, I
told me.
because obviously you got to remember, I managed Lara. I trained him. Louis with him. There's a lot of moving parts in there, right? But
Mhm.
to me, Adamas will take on all comers. I think he'll take on all fights. He proved that with Montiel. He proved that with J Rock.
Fight then. Who would win that fight?
Wow. You know what? You know what? Look, I managed Laura. I trained Adamas. Lara's a little bit older now. There's no two ways about that. But you look at his last performance. You know what I mean? Lara is a very, very, very crafty guy. Which Adamas is going to show up? Is it the Montiel Adamas? Boy, that's going to be a long, rough night. You know what I mean? For Lara, you have that young buck just swinging for the fences on you, on you. Or the Adamas, of his last performance. If it's the Devonchenko Adamas, if it's the Adamas of Montiel, if it's the Adamas of J Rock, be pretty tough. But Lara, man, make no mistake about it. He's a very cerebral fighter. He sets a lot of traps. And if you're not on your A game with him, you better be at your elite A game with him, because I seen a lot of guys come in that gym, some names that we're not going to say, where Lara's out of shape and put some ass whoopings on him. And I know that's sparring, but if you look at this, you look at how the performance with Canelo. You look at the performance with Angulo when Angulo still had a hell of a lot left in the tank. You look at the performance even with Jared Hurd when it was a fight of the year, and we lost that on the last round. He got that cut, couldn't see with the blood coming in. Fight of the year, could have went either way. I've seen him many rounds with the Charlos. Adames, you half stepping just to a degree, boy. You went for a long night. I would love to see that fight.
You can't pick it. You can't pick it.
Again, who's going to show up that night, right?
All right. I'm not gonna keep torturing you. It's a tough question.
Because here's the truth of the matter, right? Lara's my guy, but the one thing about me and you, we don't bullshit. We keep it 100. So with older fighters, you know this. With an older fighter, sometimes they wake up and they're their age. It can be a long night. But sometimes as an older guy, those guys wake up and it's like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty damn good tonight. So, all those types of things factor in. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. It's a tough one to call. It's a tough one to call. But I wanted to ask you, because this is one of the biggest conversations in boxing, and people are on different sides of the coin on this one. I kind of wanted to get your perspective. Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. We both saw the fight. Ryan Garcia comes in 3 pounds overweight, pays this guy
3.5, but who's counting?
3.5, I guess.
3.5 and 2/4 of an ounce.
He ends up paying $1.5 million to Devin Haney.
Yeah,
comes in looking huge and beats down Devin Haney, gets the decision, and later on it comes out Osterine in his system. What's your opinion on that situation?
Well, my feeling is this. I don't think it's a good precedent that you ever miss weight. That's never a good precedent. And we can't reward people to miss weight, because that you could say, oh, well, they're both the same weight on fight night, right? Oh, well, they both weighed around the same. They both rehydrated. It's not the same, because if I have to pay the price to get down in weight, that takes a hell of a lot out of me. There's no two ways about that, right? So now that being said, then you rehydrate to the same. It's not the same. So we can't set that precedent. That's terrible for the sport. The next thing is, my opinion is on it, if you can knowingly get the receipts that he intentionally got these drugs, right, that he purchased them or whatever, there's a direct, I think it should be a lifetime ban. Now, if it's somebody who gave you something that you didn't know, right? Somebody in your camp you didn't know, you're still responsible, because you have to know what's going into your body. On top of the fact, anything that's coming to you, all you have to do in the drug testing is submit it to the drug testing, and they'll tell you if this is viable or it's not viable. Now, maybe nobody told you that on your team, but that being said, anything that's coming into your body, you're responsible for. So then I think it should be like, somewhere around a year to 2 or 3 year ban. If you do it a second time, it should be a lifetime ban. And if they have direct correlation evidence that you intentionally did this, you purchased it, it came from your bank, if there's some way you could do that, I think it should be a lifetime ban. I don't think you should be playing any games with these guys, because it's bad enough if you do it in track. If you do it in track, okay, and I beat you, that's bad enough. To me, it's terrible that the other guy's working hard. You're doing this. You're getting an advantage. You're getting all the glory and this and that. Okay, that's bad enough. It's terrible. You shouldn't be doing that. But that said, the guy that I just crossed the line, he's not going to take any health damages. When you're missing weight and then you're taking steroids knowingly, that to me it's unacceptable. Now, that being said, I don't know the whole situation. I'm a big believer in you're innocent till proven guilty. Let everything play itself out. If it comes out, let it play out as long as it can, even in the time that he's in this suspension, and then let the chips fall where they may. And then if there's undeniable evidence that you knowingly, willingly took this, should be a lifetime ban. If there's evidence that obviously people in your team gave it to you and you're still responsible, okay, then you give a year or 2 year suspension. And you better know the next time. That's where I'm at on that.
Have you ever been in a situation where one of your fighters has passed away, or where one of your fighters got beat down and then ended up coming out that the opponent tested positive?
I'm gonna give you some background on something.
Okay.
And I've never shared this story ever with anybody, outside of my inner circle in the gym. And so back in the day, I had a kid, Jose Celaya, was a 2000 alternate in the Olympic team. Worked with him as a kid, got him to number 1 in the world, right? So I worked with him. He's number 1 in the world. We're the mandatory Antonio Margarito. Before that, we used to spar Margarito all the time. Now, I can't prove this, but it's when, and I've been in camps with Sugar Shane Mosley. I did a lot of camps with Sugar Shane Mosley. Mm-hmm. I was there the night when Shane fought Margarito, and they found the plaster in the rats. Now, that being said, looking back on it, I almost feel like they were doing that in the sparring. And the reason I tell you this is because Jose Celaya I had was an Olympian. He was a great boxer. He could box right hand. He could box left hand. He was like a De La Hoya, really long. Matter of fact, they're projecting him as like the next De La Hoya, right? And so, and we were in camp all the time with Sugar Shane Mosley, and Shane, just thought the world of him. Obviously, he got to number 1 in the world. Obviously, he was in the 2000 Olympics, and so he's a tremendous, tremendous talent. Never would get cut in fights, no swelling in fights, and anytime we sparred Margarito, man, he's knotted up like you couldn't believe. And this is in sparring with 16-ounce gloves, and so I'm almost thinking. I hope it wouldn't be the case, but I'm almost thinking that they were doing that in the sparring sessions. And it's just unfortunate sometimes that you can you imagine? And unfortunately, Jose's the only fighter that I ever worked with, and it hurts my heart to this day. He slurs. And we did a lot of work with Margarito, helping him with fights and things of that nature. Now, I can't attribute everything as to Margarito. Obviously, you've been fighting since you're 7 years old. Jose probably had close to 200 amateur fights. He got number 1 in the world. But some of those sparring sessions, looking back at him, like Jose would be, he'd be coming out knotted in the face. He'd be coming out knotted here, and be thinking, shit, man, he don't even get knotted up like that with 8-ounce gloves. God damn, is that guy that heavy-handed? And when all that happened with Sugar Shane Mosley, the light bulb went off. I can't prove it. I don't know. We'll never know. But the light bulb went off in my head. I can almost, venture to say he was probably doing that kind of stuff in the sparring sessions. And it's terrible that people would do that. But, at the end of the day, though, like I always tell people, boxing gets a bad rap, but never forget this. All the boxing people out there, never forget this. You have good doctors, you have bad doctors. You have good attorneys, you have bad attorneys. You have doctors that are prescribing drugs they know they shouldn't be prescribing. So at the end of the day, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, doctors, lawyers, congressmen, this, that, or that thing, you got good people and bad people, and they have choices to make, and they can do good things or bad things.
No, for sure. I mean, there's corruption in every industry.
But can you imagine that though? I'm telling you, he would come out not. I mean, just like, and he'd go, God dang, I never got hit like that with it.
I mean, team. I don't see the purpose of sparring with plaster in your gloves.
I know this for a fact.
To get used to it. I don't know,
but I know this for a fact. Many times, and for all you young coaches out there, I know this for 100% fact. Many times, you always got to check the gloves of the other guys that you're sparring with, because a lot of times those gloves are blown out. They take the padding out and stuff like that. So they've done that many times in sparring, Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
People with no padding in their
I'm like,
gloves?
hey man, that ain't right. Let me check that glove. Oh, I didn't realize the padding was out like that. You didn't realize the padding was out like that?
How many times have you caught somebody doing that?
Oh, many times. Many times. And then Mallow
Wow.
gyms, many times.
Yo, these people.
You know what's funny?
Playing...
A lot of these coaches, they don't even pay attention to stuff like that.
Whoa. That is, and these people who do it, are they bad guys, or do they have?
Yeah, if you're doing that, you know damn well what you're doing. It's either the fight or it's them, because you know at the end of the day, they can get their work in. They taking less damage. They're landing shit on you, and they keep you honest. I get to work on my offense, this and that. I got to work on you. You can't put as much a punishment on me.
Wow, that's terrible, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I've seen it where I've taken the gloves like this and I turned them upside down, and the cotton's falling out. You know what I mean? He got the stuff falling out. I said, man, wow.
Well, that's insane. That wow is the only word that comes to mind, to be honest with you.
Look what Panama Lewis did.
Panama Lewis from Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, he did the same thing. He took the padding out the gloves, and he's also the one. No proof, but where he's like,
he ain't the first to
give me the water. Give me the water. The one I mixed.
Yeah.
In the Aaron Pryor fight. What was in that water? The one he mixed.
Yeah, I don't know. But boy, it gave him some go. He was going after that.
Because Arguello was coming on.
They might have been using that at studio. Hey, they may have been using that white powder at Studio 54 in New York back in the day, right?
That's funny. That's funny. We seen Tank's last performance against Frank Martin. Pretty nasty knockout. I want to say knockout of the year so far, at least in my book. Just how good is Tank? Like, does anybody beat this guy at 135?
No, nobody's beating. The only one that's going to beat him is himself.
Okay.
Shakur, they talk about Shakur. Stop. Not going to happen. He's just going to buy. Look at what? Okay. Let me ask you a question. How much better is Shakur than Frank Martin? How much better? I don't know. What is it boxing wise? How much better? I don't know. Let's say out of a scale of a 10, if you got Shakur as a 10, where's Frank Martin? A 6, a 7?
Sure.
Okay, let's just say for argument's sake, right? A 6 or a 7. Now on punching power, where's Shakur on that level? Where's he? It probably flips.
Yeah.
So what is he going to do to keep him off of him? He's just going to jab. Yeah, let me tell you something. The fight with De Los Santos tells you a hell of a lot. It tells you a hell of a lot.
What did you take out of that De Los Santos fight? That
I feel terrible for De Los Santos because again, if you take that fight and you flip the names, and the one guy fought like that, does he win that fight? Does he win that fight? You didn't even fight. You were running the whole time. It was time. I couldn't even watch it. Okay. Not trying to be a hater and this and that. Look, there's boxing, Pernell Whitaker, and then there's a track star, Carl Lewis. You were a track star. It's almost impossible. And here's the thing: people are like, "Well, he should have just cut off the ring." In my opinion, this is my opinion. He should have just cut off the ring. Okay, it's like Mario Barrios when we fought Madonna. After we dropped him in the 3rd round, he didn't want to engage anymore. So a fighter who doesn't want to engage anymore, you have 2 choices. You can go get him. He doesn't care about winning rounds now. So if you get overtly aggressive, he only has to land 1 punch, right? Now you're really opening yourself up, right? So realistically, who should be winning those rounds? The guy who's forcing the fight and maybe not doing nothing, as opposed to the guy who's not doing anything other than running, and anytime you can finally get to engage him, he ties you up. To me, what should have happened in that fight is the referee should have called them both in and said, look, Shakur, or either one of you, if you want to move that much, I'm okay with it. You can run circles. You can run on the ropes if you want. I'm okay with that. But I'm going to tell you this. when he tracks you down, if you tie up, you already got the warning. And if you do it again, I'm taking points. And if you do it more, you're getting DQ'd. Now you're going to force him to fight to a degree. Because when De Los Santos finally did get there, what did he do? He tied him up. So let me get this straight. You expect me to sell out, cut the ring off, okay, go into harm's way. I finally get there. He ties me up. Now, at that point, what can you do? How do you fight at that point?
I personally thought De Los Santos could have done a little bit more.
But what do you do? But here's the thing. The same thing they said with me with Barrios. Oh, he could have did a little bit more. You're right about that. We could have did a little bit more. But if you're going to keep all things being equal, when we dropped him in the third round, if you go look at the fight, and I know his corner, and they told me even after the fight, they go, once they engage with Barrios, he's like, holy shit, this dude's heavy-handed. Fuck that. So now he doesn't give a shit about winning the rounds. So now he doesn't care about winning the rounds. All he's caring about at that point is, maybe I'm going to hit the lottery. Now, for the other guy, he knows one thing, unfortunately, is he's beyond the A side of A side, right? He can throw 1-2 punches, pop shot you, move all night long. He's going to get that round. How much do you want De Los Santos to sell out?
Now, the thing is with De Los Santos, I feel like he's so heavy-handed. He could have like pretty much hit him anywhere, arm, shoulder, body, head, stuff like that, where you kind of slowing him down.
Everything you're saying is valid 110%. Here's the thing too. Take this as a caveat too. Like I always tell people too. When we first fought Floyd Mayweather, and I'll never forget, he told Robert Guerrero, you ready for this? You ready for this? And, Robert Guerrero's like, oh, hell yeah, I'm ready for this. He's thinking toe-to-toe and war-to-war. I seen Floyd a couple months after the fight. He wasn't even talking about that. Are you ready for handling all the things that are going to come at you, the press conferences, this? Knowing that if I go in this fight and I beat Floyd Mayweather, man, I'm jumping now. Now I'm in 10-figure fights. All these things are going through. So you also have to take into the caveat with De Los Santos going into the fight. And fortunately, as it is now, if they were to do a rematch, everything you're probably saying would happen.
My thing is like, right? You're saying don't chase him, try to be careful because he might counterpunch you. But Shakur's not this big puncher where you kind of have to be so concerned about.
He's not a puncher at all. But here's the thing: what I'm saying is, I agree with you in that assessment. But here's the thing, though. When you chase a guy or over pursue him, he's not this big puncher, but a guy can still hurt you when you're going with reckless abandon. So the times that
I'm not saying go reckless, but do more.
But here's the thing: the times that he did go with reckless abandon, what did Shakur do to him? Tied him up. Mm-hmm. So when he did sell out, he tied him up. And then here's the thing: once he tied him up, the referee said nothing. He allowed the tie-ups to happen. So
Sure. So what would have been your game plan, right? You got De Los Santos.
Just exactly what you said. For me, I would have said, look, he's not a big puncher. They're going to do us no favors here. We got to go at this guy. And you know what? Getting back to the thing with Adames, I'm a big believer in high risk, high reward. I feel that's why Hector Garcia beat Chris Colbert. It's not always the smartest thing to do, but yeah, I would have said, hey, he's not a big puncher. We can't just get totally crazy, but we got to go after this guy. And we got to go after this guy big time. And he starts tying up, then we got to get really nasty with him tying up. And if they take points from us, that's fine. But at least public opinion, and let's be honest, we're in the entertainment business. We're in the sport of public opinion. At least everybody could have looked at it like you're saying. See, exactly what you just said. From your perspective, hey, you could have sold out more. And then if you didn't get the decision, we understand, unfortunately, that the cards were stacked against you. It shouldn't be that way, but sometimes it is. Life's not always fair. But at the end of the day, you did everything known to man to get that W. And I think then your stock goes up.
Okay.
As opposed to both guys' stock kind of dropped.
Yeah, especially De Los Santos, who was already coming off a boring decision and then
Exactly.
he follows it up with that, and now he got an injury, so he's not going to be fighting for who
Yeah, your
God knows
stock
how
drops.
long.
Your stock
And
drops.
yeah, and it did a lot of damage to his career.
Like I said, I really wish that the referee would have called them in and said, "Look, I'm okay with you if you want to run, move, whatever you want to do, but the minute that he does get to you and you tie up, that's your warning. We're going to points." And I think
That's
if
fair.
he would have did that, I think the fight would have been a much more lively fight, better for the fans, much more engaging. Because at the end of the day, to me though, too, some of the onus should be on Shakur. What you're talking about, you want to be this pay-per-view star. You're talking about you're going to go out there and beat guys like Gervonta Davis. Do you want to pay for a pay-per-view? If you're that worried about De Los Santos's power, my God, what are you going to be with Tank's power? What are you going to run to the bathroom? Are you going to run out of the stadium? What are you? What's going on here?
So you don't
Like
think you don't think Shakur got a shot against Tank?
no,
Okay, all right.
and I
That's
and
a
I
big.
and I and I've watched and I like Shakur. I know the guys that work with him. I think he's a tremendous talent. I just think he's a great champion. Nothing, no disrespect to him. Obviously, he's accomplished a lot. He's an Olympian. He's a medalist in the Olympics. He's won multiple world championships. But let me tell you something. Do people forget about this? Do you think, I'm asking you now, do you think they always talk about Tank never fought nobody? He never did. Okay, that's fantastic. He didn't unify the title. That's fantastic. Do you think Shakur could take on Mario Barrios and beat Mario Barrios? Come on up, baby. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it because
Oh
it ain't
man,
happening. It
I
ain't happening.
mean,
It ain't
okay,
happening. You ain't
okay.
got the horsepower. You ain't got the horsepower. I guarantee you that. You could be as technically good as you want to be. Ugas is technically, he's an Olympian. He got 400 fights. Hey, baby, you better have some horsepower. You better have some horsepower, baby.
Okay, I got a $2 super chat from my guy Fernandez. He says, "Talk that ish, Santos. My man cooking." So the fans seem to be happy with our interview. Shout out to you for the $2 super chat, Fernandez. Hold on. Matter of fact, let me add that little ticker in the bottom in case y'all don't wanna y'all just wanna zell me direct. You're more than welcome to. Uh, you had trained against Chepo Reynoso in like some amateur team out in California.
Well, Reynoso, when I was in California, I had the San Jose PAL. I worked out at San Jose PAL, which
Hmm.
was Eros Correa, that was a two-time USA representative with us. I'm training him now. He's top 10 in the world, 118 pounder, way back in the day. And so Chepo, that people forget he had Oscar Larios. They only just think about him with Canelo. But interesting story because where we're from in the Bay Area, in San Jose and Watsonville, a lot of strawberry picking, a lot of apricot picking, you know what I mean? Cherry fields. Now, obviously, everybody thinks about it as Silicon Valley, iPhones and Apple Computer and all that kind of stuff. But back in the day, you know what I mean? Most of the people would come up there, the migrants, to work and this and that. So he would come up there, believe it or not, and he was working in the strawberry fields, and he ran like a lot of the amateurs out of Watsonville, and I ran a lot of the amateurs out of San Jose, which is basically not too far from each other out there. That's a little backdrop.
How long ago was this?
Oh shit, we're talking a lot of years ago, 25, 30 years ago, somewhere in there.
So you would have your 4 or 5 kids from San Jose. He would have his four or
Yeah,
five
he
kids.
he have his, yeah, he would have his guys in Watsonville, and we do you do the tournaments in Salinas and Gilroy and the smoker fights. We get those smoker fights in that wouldn't go on the record. You know what I mean? How many amateur fights your kid got? You got 5. Boxing, you got 5.
Meanwhile, he
You
got
got
25
25
fights.
smoker fights already.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. But we already talked about a bunch of the fighters you trained. Who would you say is currently the best fighter you trained out of all of them?
Wow. Um, that's hard to say. I'm real high on Denier, the Fear Perot, the heavyweight, the 2020 Olympian.
I thought you was
He,
gonna say Barrios. I thought you was gonna say Barrios.
well, Barrios is the most accomplished for sure.
Hmm.
But when you're looking all around, what Barrios has accomplished too is just unbelievable. When you look at his amateur career, not being an Olympian, being a two-time world champion, I think Barrios, um, I feel probably the most accomplished about, because here's a kid who was, he's pretty solid, but he wasn't a gold medal winner in the Olympics, and he's a two-time world champion. So when you look at it from that perspective, the accomplishments has been pretty incredible, and to the level that he's at now, where hey, you're the WBC champ. You're getting ready. We're preparing now, obviously, for Manny Pacquiao, a legend. So you're talking career high paydays and thing, to the creme de la creme of the sport. You're talking about Devin Haney now, you know what I mean, is trying to get on with us, where, obviously we would be the A side in that fight. So, things have really, the tide has really turned for Mario Barrios. But when we look at a guy like Daniel Perot, he's the youngest Olympian ever in the heavyweight division in Cuba. I think that speaks volumes. 2020 Olympian. He's got a lot of the speed of an Usyk, but he's physically a little bigger in terms of bigger boned. I'm not saying he's going to do what Usyk did, but the talent's there, the ability's there. And again, what do you want versus what do you want more? And it's really come down to, do you want it? If he wants it, sky's the limit. He'll be heavyweight champ of the world.
Okay. All right. Daniel Perot. All right. I wasn't
Demir
expecting.
the Fear Peril.
I like it. I love it. The Nobody 92 sends a $5 super chat. Appreciate you, my brother. He says, does Bob see any difference from the way Carlos is fighting now compared to when he was fighting under him?
No two ways about it. I'm a competitor, right? And so just like anybody, any coach or fighter, I want to believe the best in myself. I want to believe that I'm going to leave no stone unturned to prepare you to be the best that you can be. Um, the way, proof is in the pudding. Okay. We went out there, we obliviated Montiel, who went the distance with Charlo. We went out there against a unified champion. People may not say the performance was what it was against Montiel. I understand that. But guess what? We still got the stoppage against a former unified champion. Now, you can make the argument, right? You can play devil's advocate, and you can say, well, he didn't take too much risk with Goucher, he did whatever. But to me, I like Adamas to be a little bit more, explosive, because I know that's within him, and I didn't see it that night. And I love you, Carlos. You're my guy. And I told him after the fight, you got the win. That's all that matters. On to the next one, and go out there and show that explosion on the next one, because it's you got it. It's within you, and he's a top tier guy. There's no two ways about it.
All right, I'm gonna ask a question, but like you said, we don't hold back. Me and you, we got the relationship where we straight shooters, and this is just us just talking ball, man. I want to circle back to Barrios versus Ugas.
Okay.
We know the history. We don't need to get into detail. We know the history between you and Salas. Again, we don't need to get into detail. I'm not trying to start now. But how much did that win over him put a little extra, feel good to that win? Because we know you guys have had your beefs. Again, I don't want to get into too much unless you want to. That's on you. But how extra did that feel? Like, wow, there we go. You guys, you guys think, all right, all gonna leave me for Salas. Well, my guy's gonna beat Salas.
You know what's interesting is, like most things in life, 2020 is hindsight, right? And you look back on things. Obviously, anytime you get a win of that magnitude against anybody, it's going to be sweet, regardless. And I've been on both sides of the ball game. It was very tough when Hector lost that title. So I've been on both sides of the street. And I'll tell you this: I respect anybody who takes the reins as a head coach. What you got to go through, it's not easy. It's not as easy as people think. You know what I mean? Because yes, you get some of the glory, but you take a lot of the heat though too. Well, he should have did this, and the guy should have did that, and I think he should have did this, and he should have did that. And so, from that perspective, one thing I'm thankful for guys like Salas that do what they do, and everybody anybody that's in and around the sport, any fighter that climbs in the ring, no matter how good or how bad, I respect them. And I'm thankful for what they do because it enables me to make a living in a sport that I love. And on top of the thing is, having guys like that are competitors, it brings out the best in me, right? Because I want to be the best I can possibly be, and that brings out the best in me. That motivates me to get up and go to work every day, and we're going to get the job done, right? So yeah, there's a little bit more added there, obviously, because I used to work in the corners with him, with Laura, who I manage, and things of that nature. So obviously, there's going to be that added extra that you want to bring to the table, and I'm sure it was as well for him.
Okay. All right. Give me. Oh, all right. This is actually a question I had on my notes. I wasn't gonna ask, but somebody's super chatting, so that's the Nobody 92 sends another $5 super chat, and he says, "Any update on Starling Castillo, and what was Bob's thoughts on his last performance?"
I'm very happy with his last performance, and I'm gonna tell you why. We are fighting a very, very rugged Mexican who is the A side, right? We're in a pro box fight, and anybody that knows about pro box, those fights are not easy. Those are 50-50 fights, for the most part. Maybe you'll have a 60-40. Those are 50-50 fights. And I'm very, very happy with him because we fought a rugged Mexican. Like I said, he had won all his fights by knockout. I mean, I think his only loss, he had actually dropped the guy a couple times, got injured in the fight, and I think that's the only loss of his career. And anybody knows about pro box, boy, you talk about a phone booth. Don't think you could just box in that ring. Hey, Puello, you might not want to fight Antoine Russell in that ring. There might not be too much room to move. And so I'm so happy for him because he had everything going against him. We all know the Dominicans, boy, they can box their ass off. They can go corner to corner, they dip you, do you out here, boom. Unbelievable talent. You know that. Puello, Starling Castillo, all these guys. I mean, Adames, all these guys. I mean, they're just phenomenal. But Jesus criminy, when you get into that phone booth, we're in the Mexicans' wheelhouse. That's they live for that. So for us to get the victory over that guy in that situation, I'm super happy for him. And again, it's unfortunate. Here he comes off a great win and no opportunity.
Yeah, that fight was this past March. We are currently in June, so it's tomorrow. Actually, it'll be exactly 3 months. So hopefully,
he needs to be capitalized on that because that was a great win.
That was a good fight. That was a good
fight. That was a great, and like I said,
and a close fight too.
Well, in terms of if you ever been to those pro box fights, boy, I'll tell you that ring is tiny.
So I never noticed the size of the ring.
You better be ready to bring it.
Okay, all right.
You better be ready to bring it. There ain't much places to move.
All right. That's good to know. You recently got a new boxing gym. I haven't been. I almost feel like embarrassed that I haven't been. I feel like I need to hurry up and make a trip to go to Las Vegas because I feel like anything Bob Santos I should be covering. You just recently got a new gym. How long ago did you get the new gym, as well as what has been the difference?
Well, what's great about it is we got Shoe Palace on board, right? So Shoe Palace is the main sponsor for the gym. It's obviously still pound for pound.
Okay.
The gym is beautiful. I mean, all brand new. We got the upstairs up there, which we put the podcast room. So hopefully you can come do one of your live podcasts from there. That would be great.
I'm gonna take you up on that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because
take.
then you could do the podcast over the sparring. So you up on the second floor looking down onto the ring and stuff like that, watching the sparring. It'd be real cool if you came and did a podcast one time where the guys were sparring and working and stuff. That'd be really
You
cool.
got it. You got it. Next time I'm out there, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Let's go.
Yeah, no. I feel like every time I leave, you start moving up. First time we met, you were in Robert Guerrero's garage. You remember that was the first
Yeah.
time we met.
Yeah.
Then I leave, come back. Then you had the gym where I gave Hector Luis Garcia the trophy.
Yeah.
And then I leave, and now you telling me about a new gym, man. It's like every time I leave, you moving up and up and up. It's like I'm loving. I've seen you since the bottom now, and seeing you go up is a cool experience on my end.
No two way. It's funny. A lot of times, thank God for the Dominicans because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I love all the ethnicities. No two ways about it. But I've been in the sport 31 years, manager, coach, the whole nine. And I will always be thankful to Carlos Adames, to Hector Garcia, and to Puello because they took me over the top. And you can never, take anything away from them. I'm always thankful to them. They're always in my heart, and they took me over the top. And because of that, then it allows you where people really notice that, hey, you're capable, comparable of what you're doing. Because a lot of times you could have champions, and for whatever reason, you just don't get that breakthrough. And then once you do like that, then you get a Denier, the Fear Pro, a heavyweight. And then you get, a Rosario who is a former unified champion that, you know what I mean? I think if he stays on the narrow and focused, I'm not going to say he's going to be James Toney. He's going to go up and win the heavyweight championship of the world. I'm not saying that, but he can be comparable, get back into title contention and do something. And to even work with a guy like that is a huge blessing because there's a lot of coaches out there, this as well as I do, who've been coaching 30, 40 years. They've never had one world champion. So it's a blessing to work with these guys at that level, and you can never take those things for granted. And I'm a big believer in the Bible. You reap what you sow. If you plant lemons, don't be surprised when you get lemon trees. You do good things, you do the right things, and more times than not, as you know, I mean, me and you kind of when you started this podcast, and me and the coach, we kind of came up the funnel together.
We spoke on this before where. When we met each other, we were both kind of bottom of the barrel.
Oh yeah.
I looked that way, you look this way. Then we turned back. And it's like we're on the other side of the ropes. We're like, oh yeah. Wow. So we kind of grew together, which I found very interesting. And I think that's why we get along so well.
But what's funny is if you look back on it, it's funny too, because you have all these different Steve Kim and Mario Lopez and all these different guys do different podcasts, whatever they're doing, whatever the case may be. But if you look at it, it's kind of funny because you kind of started that drum beat for me. It was really you that started the drum beat and said, hey man, I'm kind of looking around and this Santos is doing an okay job. He got this upset here. This is looking pretty good here. And to me, he looks like the front runner for the trainer of the year. And then all of a sudden, another guy picked up on it. Another guy picked up on it. And then they kind of looked at the body of work and said, you know what? He's our guy. But I remember funny? You're the one that got that. You're the one that lit the spark on that one.
Yeah, it was off a tweet. It was off a tweet on Twitter where I put out, I'm like, man, like Bob is really up for trainer of the year. He got that big upset with Hector. With Montiel had just went to decision with Charlo, and then Adames just destroys the guy.
But was that an amazing performance by Adames though?
It was great. It was fantastic.
I'll tell you what, that's the Adames that I know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's the Adames that I know in the gym. And he could be such a super. He got it. He has everything there to be a superstar. He really has superstar talent, and I know. We've talked about it in the past. Obviously, you got to do it in the ring on a consistent basis, right? To level up that those kind of paydays and determine those kind of paydays. But it is within him. I'm telling you, it is within him.
To me, with Adames, I never doubt his physical ability because he's always shown he's just naturally
Oh, he
athletic
is
and
gifted.
naturally strong.
Gifted.
But to me, it just doesn't seem like he's really thinking too much. Like he's not really setting stuff up. It's just kind of like his plan is to I'm gonna just go in there, throw punches until I knock you out. And that's where I get concerned with him once he steps up in competition because these guys are thinking 3, 4 steps ahead. You know
Yeah,
what? I'm
you,
gonna
you got
put
to be
this in
careful. You got to
my
be
hand.
careful with guys at that next level that can really set traps and things of that nature. There's no two ways about it. But I think the one thing with Adames is he's so super talented. You know, it's almost like a tremendous quarterback, right? He's got such crazy arm strength. I know they're in double coverage. I give you a football analogy. And my
Yeah.
arm strength is so good. I know I could put you. You probably shouldn't throw the ball there. And most coaches would say, fucking don't go there. But he's got such ability that I could pump that ball in there. And then I think a lot of times what happens with him, you know, he's so gifted. Do I take off and run as a quarterback because I'm one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league and go for 20 yards? Do I pump the ball in there 110 miles an hour? He's got so many things that he can do. And then sometimes I think he just loses sight of just like you said, be a little bit more cerebral, set a couple things up, and then let it take care of itself.
I'll just read this super chat and then I'll tell him what to do afterwards. So the Nobody 92 sends a $5 super chat. Says any updates on Hector Luis Garcia? From the outside looking in, it looks like his heart isn't in boxing anymore. He addressed that earlier in the interview. So after the live, if you want to go back to the beginning and check that out, I don't want to waste too much time on that. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything you said as far as Carlos. Carlos is talented. I just feel like he's
Well,
lacking a little bit.
I tell you how good he is. If you'd pay money to watch him spar.
Yeah, and the times I've gone out there, he hasn't been out there, so it hasn't worked out.
You'd pay money to watch him spar because what I've seen him do in many, many sparring sessions, what he showed in the Montiel fight.
Wow.
You know? And you know what? I'll tell you another thing too. When we got in the J-Rock fight, and he was kind of going through the motions, like you said, even in that fight, a little bit lethargic. And then you lit a little fire under his ass. And I said, hey, man, you know, you're better than this. You stop this guy. Turn it up on his ass. Look, you say whatever you want to say. You could say the performance wasn't the Montiel performance, but guess what? He got the stoppage. And he threw some explosive body punch. Would you have liked to seen that more of that for many more rounds? And hey, I'm the head coach. Of course, I'd like to see more of that though too. But obviously, it's there when he needs it to be there, and he just got to do more of it.
Yeah, and again, I think he needs to follow a game plan. The game plan can't just be I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna throw punches and adjust in there. You have to go in with a plan A, B, and C, and then if you got to make in-ring adjustments, sure. But I just think that's at least from what I've seen from what I've not liked from fights past. That's always been my problem with him. Not necessarily the talent. I think the talent is obviously there.
Let me ask you this though, as a caveat to him. I think one of the other big problems with him is it's not so much just him. You know, you as a fighter, you have a team that you work with, right? Whether it's your manager, your promoter, an advisor, whatever that case may be. I think what he's got to do too is he's got to stay with just one trainer for a good long time too.
That is true.
Because I mean, he's been with me, he's been with Robert Garcia, he's been with Joel Diaz, he's been with Salas, and that's hard to get consistency too when you have that many different trainers. You know, so to his credit, look, at the end of the day, these fighters are going to do what the managers are telling them to do, where they got to go, and things of that nature. And so I I think it does him a disservice to bounce around with so many different trainers, and that hurts you too.
Yeah, that's something I've spoken to him about before, but he seems to think that he just learns a little bit here, learns a little bit there. But I think there's a little bit of a routine or consistency that you stay if you
Well, I
stay
think he
with
was.
one guy.
I even think he was with a Hunter out there in Washington
Yeah, he
D.C.
was with Barry Hunter, and he
So I
was
mean,
with a guy here in Brooklyn.
and then obviously you have your amateur coach or the guy that works with you in the Dominican Republic. And so when you factor in all those types of different things, sometimes you be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I think, like you said, I think what he's really got to do is stay with one coach, get a little bit more cerebral with your physical gifts. Don't throw everything with a fastball. Start making that change up, the curveball. Like you said, set up a little bit more traps and things of that nature. I think if he could do that, we could see, the talent level and everything come together and have a real world-class fighter on our hands. It'd be great for the sport of boxing.
Yeah, another Dominican that he's kind of been out the loop is Michelle Rivera. I remember that's somebody who you were real high on at one
I
point,
was
and
super, super high on him. I inexplicably, the Frank Martin fight, to me it's a misnomer. He never gave any indication in any fight or any sparring session that I ever seen that would happen.
yeah,
We took Jackson Morales on 9 days notice, and we gave Frank Martin all he could handle. We were in a tit for tat fight to the last round. He stopped us. Remember, we had to lose 35 pounds and we had 9 days. Okay.
35 pounds in
And we had
9 days.
9 days. We had to get down and weight. We had to get down. He was so weight.
Oh wait, he weighed 170 9 days before.
Probably
That's
about
35
65, 30 pounds, somewhere there. 30, 35 pounds. I forget, but it was in the 30s. We had 9 days to get down and weight.
Well, 30. Listen, if 135 to 30 is
it was super
165.
high, and because we had 9 days. We had no indication of the fight. We had 9 days. So for him to go, tit for tat with him in the 10, he just ran out of gas. Really, is what happened.
Yeah.
So in my mind, Michelle Rivera is a great talent. I know he's got too much to prepare for this fight. I'm still perplexed by that. It just goes to show you sometimes things just go out the window.
Oh, he didn't look well in the weigh-in, and then it came out afterwards that he was on diuretics. So I don't know how much that came into play. Where
I'm sure it did, but what I'm still perplexed about is Morales, and you could talk to Morales. He could be he would have the exact number better than I did because I'm going on recollection. But I know we were around 30 some odd pounds because when we took the fight, 9 days he had been out. There was no opportunities of any kind of fights. He had been out of the ring, I think, for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so he had to lose a tremendous. I remember going into that fight. All we did that entire day was just weight loss. From the 9 days we had, it was just straight into weight loss.
How long was he with you before you guys got the call? Was he with you a month, 2 months?
No, he had been in the gym. He had been training in the gym. But there's a big difference. I don't care what you're doing in the gym. If you have no fight, your eating habits aren't curtailed. Obviously you should be within reason, but he had came and he was super, super heavy. So now you're just kind of training, there's no, prospects of a fight. And then you get the prospect of the fight. And now it's like, okay, yeah, you've been in the gym. That's a whole different animal than, a strategic bringing your weight down to be ready for a fight.
Wow.
And so for him to get to the 10th round, in all honesty, I give him big time credit too, because what he did on 9 days notice. 9 days notice. That's insane. That was impressive. Yeah, you can say, oh, he got stopped. Bro, in that eighth round, I can remember the Showtime commentary looking at me like they were all looking at me like in disbelief because they thought he was already going to get blown out. Like, holy shit. They're looking at me like, oh, it's like we can't believe what we're witnessing. and he just ran out of gas because it was just weight depleted.
Yeah, no, I mean, in 9 days notice, I did see
So
that's
now,
something I
you
didn't know
factor
he
that
had
in,
lose that
would you think that Michelle Rivera would the fight would have happened like that with 2 months notice? That's perplexing to me.
I mean, the reason, listen, and I'm not gonna take that win away from Frank Mar. I said it
No,
that
I
day,
don't take it away from him either. You
and
had
I'll
two
say it
months to
now.
be ready. You had 2 months to be ready. I'm not taking anything away from him. What I'm
Yeah,
saying is,
no,
even if Frank Martin would have, let's just say this: if Frank Martin would have knocked him out in the first round, okay, we all know that's the most dangerous round of boxing. Okay, he got caught. If Frank Martin would have, the fight was going on and he knocked him out in the 6th round, okay. The performance itself, he looked like a shell of himself. He looked like an old man in there. He looked like he was 45 years old in there. I was like, what the hell is going on? It was perplexing.
I think whatever them diuretics he took, I think that drained him the.
He looked lethargic. He looked like a shell of himself. And
Yeah,
like I'm saying, I had never seen that before in any sparring sessions or any fight before that. So that's why it was perplexing to me. Like, what am I
yeah.
watching here?
No, and right now his career is, I don't know what he left Samson. I don't know who's his trainer. He's currently now he's gonna fight on Clarissa Shields undercard. I know word on the opponent. Uh I feel like he's took a nosedive since that loss.
Unfortunately, a lot of times that's what happens in this sport, and that's the one thing that I wish that we could change with this sport is like, for instance, I never seen any indications that would have happened, but we're all human. And the same way we give breaks, we got to give a little bit more breaks to the fighters, that the same way we would do to our favorite baseball team. They can't win every damn game. The same way, with a football team and this and that. Sometimes you're going to have an off night for the most part. They all can't be Floyd Mayweather. You have an off night, but what I really wish the boxing fans would always do is, just because a guy has an off night, enjoy the talent level that he has. Support him in the next fight. And that's the other thing too. When you do those types of things, then we're going to get the types of fights that we want, because as fighters, a lot of times they know if I lose one fight, it could be a nosedive for my career. Not only that, they can win the fight and still their career takes a hit. So this is the only sport that I can win and still lose. So you got to get behind these guys, and then they're more willing to take risk. And that's the one good thing, I give credit where credit is due. The one great thing that the UFC got is, if a guy loses a fight, they're still going to support him.
No, 100%, and that's one thing I on this channel I stress a lot. Sometimes, like before whatever it came out that Ryan tested positive and all that, I was telling people, I'm like, yo, you guys can't be so hard on Devin Haney. It's one loss. He took one loss and whatever. But
to a guy who didn't make weight, and a guy who may have been on the juice.
Yeah, at that time, there was no word on the juice part when I was telling people, like,
but even, you know what? Even if there was no word on the juice, like I try to tell people though too. Yeah, well, they both pretty much weighed the same when they went into the look, bro. When you got to make weight, it's a whole different animal. It takes a lot out of you to get down to that weight. And let me tell you something. If it didn't, he would have made the weight.
So in that scenario, your fighter, right? He makes weight. The other fighter comes in 3 point whatever over. Do you at that point tell him, all right, we're gonna do a rehydration clause? Because that's one thing that they didn't do. They just said, give us the money for you coming in overweight, and that's it.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of people say, "Oh, the daddy screwed up because he didn't do the rehydration clause." Well, we all know Devin Haney, one of his main, keys to victory is that he rehydrate. He's a big guy when he rehydrates. So probably in the mind, looking back on it, he probably would have wished he could have changed that. But in his mind's eye, my son is a superior boxer to him. He's going to rehydrate really, really big. And I think that's an advantage for us. And that's probably why he didn't do it.
Okay. So in that scenario, you can make only Ryan have to rehydrate clause, and I'd be okay since I may wait. You can't do that.
I don't know how the Nevada. Every commission is different. Every state is different. What your personal agreements are or not. There's so many factors that go into the thing, and then you got to remember though too. You have the pressures of the TV network that want the fight to go through too. You know what I'm saying? So it's you got a lot of dynamics and a lot of pressure on you in a lot of different forms.
What was your? We had spoke about it earlier, but I don't think you ever gave me your stance. So do you feel Devin Haney was cheated against Ryan?
Well, when you don't make weight, and every fighter out there or anybody that's ever been in boxing, even put on amateur gloves and even did a couple amateur fights, we all know one thing. The last pound is the hardest pound to lose. You can lose that. You can lose 14 pounds. You get down to that last pound. I've seen it where you lose 15, you lose 16, you lose 17. And you get down to that last pound and you just can't lose it. It just won't. I mean, I don't care how much running you do, how much plastics you do. And every fighter out there knows this to be true. There's sometimes the body just goes into shutdown and you just are not getting that 1 pound off. Now imagine he just blows off 3.5. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah,
You're in a whole other weight
you,
class now.
you feel he got cheated more so on the weight than the PEDs.
Depends on what the PEDs that he was taking.
Well, it was Ostarine.
And what, to what levels?
They were very low, the levels, allegedly.
You see what I'm saying? To what levels? If the levels are low, then I think the weight cut would have taken, because you got to lose those last 3.5 pounds. You could be a dead man walking. I'll give you an example. Like when Barrios fought Gervonta Davis, we were like a cancer patient going into that fight. Whoa. We were dead. There was a rehydration. I literally had to carry Barrios up onto the scale. Now I'll tell you this: if Mario Barrios could have blown off 3.5 pounds with Tank would not have won that fight.
Did you guys have a rehydration clause for that fight, for the Barrios Tank fight?
I don't know exactly what it was, but there was a lot of problems with the weight for us for sure.
No, I'm saying the day of the fight, you guys had a reweigh.
I don't recall. I don't recall at the time because Barrios, I've been his co-manager with Louis DeCubas Jr. since we turned him pro. I was his head coach from his first pro fight all the way to #1 in the world. Then we made the change to Virgil Hunter, brought him out to the Bay Area, and he trained with Virgil for a few fights. And he was under Virgil for that fight. Then he took the loss with Gervonta. He took the loss with Keith Thurman. And that's when Louis DeCubas Jr. said, look, you and him never lost together. You won 20 some odd fights. You got him to #1 in the world. He needs to go back to you. And
he hasn't lost since. He hasn't lost since, right? Yeah.
No, thank God for that.
I got the Nobody 92 who sends a $5 super chat. He says, before Boots signed with Matchroom, there were rumors about a potential Boots versus Barrios fight. Were those rumors true?
Absolutely. And Barrios,
that would have been a nice fight, an explosive fight.
Boots is just, man, I feel in a lot of ways, I feel bad for him because I think he's a tremendous talent. I think he's one of the best talents in the sport, but we're going to have to see. He needs that Terrence Crawford. He needs that type of a fight to really prove that he's on that level, that his talent, matches everything, the eyeball test against the level, and to see that he has that. Because the eyeball test is, to me, passes it. He just needs to get like a Terrence Crawford fight, one of those types of fights.
No, and it's unfortunate. I believe he's 27 years old. So, like, when we do finally get him in the mix of fighting top fighters, we may have missed 3-4 years of his prime with he's fighting lower level competitions.
It's unbelievable, huh? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's something that this era it's been happening a lot. A lot of guys are older where they're finally fighting fights where it's like, bro, I remember. Well, I don't remember, but Sugar Ray Leonard, I believe he fought for his first world title at 21. And
Robert Guerrero fought for his first world title at 21. Even back then, but you know what? As the Floyd Mayweather, blueprint or thing of boxing kind of took over, the O, you have to be undefeated. You have to be undefeated. A lot of quality fights fell by the wayside because of that, unfortunately. And that's where I'm saying, like, the boxing fans, you got to get behind the guys, even if they take a loss, get behind it, because when you do that and you keep the stakes good for those guys, they're going to be more willing to get in the ring, and then we're going to be able to see more opportunities like that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and one loss can't be everything. And one loss can't be everything. Not everybody's Floyd Mayweather. Not everybody's Rocky
But, and if
Marciano.
you want to look at Floyd Mayweather, you look at the first Castillo fight, really flip a coin. Did he win that fight? I don't know. Flip a coin.
I got you.
You can make the argument he didn't win that fight. The first Maidana fight, you can make an argument he didn't win that fight.
I got to rescore that first Maidana fight, but I remember watching it live on TV and thinking, when the decision was being read, not being sure which way it was going to go. I remember that feeling.
Even the De La Hoya fight.
The De La Hoya fight was also a close fight. It was a split decision.
That's what I'm saying. The De La Hoya fight. So you could. I mean, you're within a hair this way or this way. And nobody could bitch and complain if it would have went the other way. So that being said, as great as he is, he was pretty fortunate in some situations too.
I got you. Bob, I want to give the opportunity for the fans to call in and ask a question. That's cool with you?
100%.
All right, everybody. I'm going to put the link in the chat if anybody wants to hop in, ask a question. We've talked a lot. I mean, I feel like when me and Bob, we got to have a show a month or something. So it's been a while. So I've been keeping him for longer than I usually do. But it was a lot to talk about. And I definitely, if you guys think I missed anything, the link is in the chat. Please feel free to click the link. Even if you just want to say hello to Bob and let him know how good of a job he's doing. You also guys can do that. I appreciate you guys being with me on this Wednesday night. But yeah, man, we used to do more interviews more often, but we both been pretty busy and times we've tried to set it up. It's kind of hasn't worked out. But I'm glad
up.
Yeah, man, we moving on up. We're
like the NASDAQ. We're like the stock market. We're moving up, baby.
Better buy some Broadway and Bob stocks.
Let's go.
Oh, okay. All right. And your new gym, is it something strictly like how it was the old gym where it's private, only, your fighters and people invited can go, or can any other civilian just go sign up, pay a monthly,
Yeah, they can go on there and pay a monthly, but for the most part, like when we have guys come into camp, we will set specific lots of time aside. But for the most part, I always try to ingratiate myself to the fans and make the gym open to people and welcome people and people that are interested in the sport, or like I said, are just just fans or whatever the case may be. Because without them, we're nothing. And I think you should always, give back and ingratiate yourself to everybody at all times. And so I always try to make my gym open to anybody. Like I said, whether you're interested in boxing or whether you're just a fan and you're just like, man, hey, man, is it cool if I come by and watch a sparring session and this and that? Sure, come on in.
Man, that's super dope. You should sell that experience on Airbnb or something. Watch sparring at my gym, world champions and stuff like that. No, I've had the pleasure of watching sparring in your gym. It definitely gets intense. I've had the pleasure of watching you guys train. I remember last time I was there, Joel Casamayor was training people.
Yeah.
He was working with you. Is he still part of your camp?
No, he's actually moved on to a different gym, but I see him at the fight. Sometimes he'll stop by the gym. He got a lot more involved with the amateur kids and things of that nature and stuff like that. So that's good for him. But obviously, I worked with him for a long time. Matter of fact, it was funny because I was with Joe Goosen last week. I spent about 3 hours, and me and him were reminiscing because I was in his gym for many, many years. And obviously, we had Joel Castmore back in the day, and we're just reminiscing about a lot of stories and great times. And sometimes you look back and you're like, geez, obviously his brother Dan, who was a promoter for America Presents, and has passed. And you look, you just reminisce about a lot of things. You go, man, time goes, boy, it goes. Well, I don't know what happened here. I don't know what happened there. I see Broadway Joe.
All right. Yo, my bad, fellas. I don't know what the hell happened, man. I don't know what the hell happened. Let me see if I could get Bob to come back at least. Yeah, I'm sorry, fellas. Yeah, I usually never get technical issues, but that was weird. I don't know. I usually just it's smooth. I don't know what the hell happened. Like I genuinely, it's not like something I've been dealing with and fixed, and now it's happening again. I've never had the video just crash out on me. My man Larry Liston says, "Damn, it was getting good." I mean, I honestly I felt like it was good the whole time. It was really good. He was giving me a lot of good content, a lot of good. I honestly the one where the part where he was talking about Shakur Stevenson having no chance against Tank and how upset he was with how he fought De Los Santos, I thought that was some good shit right there. So he definitely gave me a lot. He gave me his perspective on Puello and Adames talked about Hector Luis Garcia's, hunger not being there and and how he can possibly get it back, but we don't know. And I love the interview. I love the interview. Either way, I don't think he's gonna hop back on. But yo, I appreciate you guys making sure everybody hit that like button, man. Definitely hit that fucking like button. If y'all support me, that's the least y'all can do. I got Bob back. Bob, sorry about that. That was on my end. I don't know what happened. My computer just crashed though.
All good.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to end the show on that note. I felt like we had such a good interview. And then if I had to end abruptly like that, I was like, damn, I at least want you to at least say bye to the fans, or if there's any message you wanted to give out to the fans before going, or if there's anything you wanted to get off your chest as well.
No, everything's great. I'm always thankful to be with you guys. I'm always thankful to Dominican boxing and all the boxing fans out there. So at the end of the day, like I said, man, keep supporting everybody in boxing. Everybody in
Mhm.
boxing. You know what I mean? Even the guys you root for, the guys you don't root for, the coaches you like, the coaches you don't like. Remember, at the end of the day, it takes all of us to make the sport that we love go. And so, you got to support everybody.
And I'll add on to that. I'll add on to that. I know, and then listen, I'm not innocent. Everybody has illegally streamed the fight. Illegally stream is not good for the sport. Believe it or not, I know you guys going, yeah, but they make enough money and this, that, and the third. What happens is these executives, they grab the piece of paper, they go, man, we're only selling this amount of pay-per-views
Yeah.
anyways. Why are we going to keep investing in
Yeah,
boxing?
that's
And then
right.
they don't
That's right.
invest. But if you don't illegally stream and you buy these pay-per-views and these numbers are more adequate, to the
Of
executives
course,
like them,
then
they
we
may
then we
keep
then we're gonna get the fights that we want to see though too. Why is this guy ducking this guy? You're gonna get the fights that you want to see. Of course, there's gonna be more
exactly.
incentives
It's
to get
like
things done.
a lot of people complain about a fight that they're gonna steal anyway. So it's like, you know what, we might as well put the card we want to put on because you guys are gonna whether it's a great undercard or not, you guys are gonna steal the fight. So that's one message I want to put out. Since you said support boxing, you want to support boxing, stop stealing the fights. That's probably the biggest way you can
A
support boxing.
hundred, 110%, 110%.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we'll say goodbye. Again, I didn't want to end the show so abruptly. Uh, Bob, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You're always welcome on, and we'll do this more often. I appreciate you, and I definitely always find your perspective interesting.
You know what? And I always appreciate you. The one thing I like about you, a lot of people don't like to hear the truth. But at the end of the day, we've had this conversation before. You always want to stay authentic to what you see, what you believe. I can remember you coming up to me after the fight with J Rock and said, Bob, I think this could have been. And it's always good to have people give different perspectives, not always be politically correct. We can agree to disagree, but in anything in life, for everybody out there in boxing, coaches, podcasts, whatever, the truth will always level you up. And
Mhm.
so us trainers, coaches, uh, boxers too. On the flip side of that, when guys are or doing these kind of things, you may not agree with them. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But at the end of the day, this is what makes America great. This is what will make you a much better coach, a much better guy on a podcast, a much better fighter, and not take everything so personal. Because when you do that stuff, then that brings out the best in everybody. Because nobody's above criticism, and that's the one thing that I like about mine and your relationship, that you can come to me and say, hey, Bob, I think this could have been better, that could have been better. And all you fighters out there, don't take stuff personal, man. It ain't personal. It ain't personal. It's the sport we love. That's what makes sports great. I think you loses to Tank, but this guy thinks Shakur beats Tank. But that's what makes it great, because if you knew the outcome of everything, what's the point?
Mm-hmm. And I wish more trainers had your outlook on things. There's currently one trainer that's upset at me because of the critique I did, but that's just boxing. That's just boxing. Some people
Look,
are gonna
man,
appreciate you and
there's
some
no
people won't.
perfect coach, there's no perfect fighter, and at the end of the day, you got to take criticism sometimes with a grain of salt, but sometimes it's valid, sometimes maybe it's not valid. As long as it's
Mhm.
not personal, they're not attacking your family or whatever like that. You should never let it get to that degree. See what you can get better, see what you can learn from it. There's, and that ultimately that'll make you a better coach.
Yeah. Somebody last minute is sending a super chat. The Nobody 92 sends $5. He says, Joel, since Bob threw the offer out there that you can do your show in his gym, would you consider moving to Las Vegas permanently
No
in the
state taxes,
future?
baby. No state taxes. That's why we're here. We want to keep every bang for our buck. Let's go.
Man, if I was single with no kids, it wouldn't even be a thought. I would be living in
But you know
Vegas
what, Broadway?
already.
Hey, the name Broadway Joel. We got to stay in New York. We could come to Vegas for a little bit, but Broadway Joel.
But I'll say this. I'll say this. The bigger I get, the more and more trips I'll be able to take out there. Because there's been a couple times I took a trip out there with no fight. I just took a trip just to get content, just to make relationships. There's been a couple trips like that. One trip where I went for a fight and still met up with you. But the more and more I get bigger, the more and more time I'll have, and I'll be able to just take a trip or two and make out all the fights. And definitely, it's in the plans to be out there more often.
That's why everybody watching this show, you got to support Broadway Joel. We got to finance this man so he can come out, do the podcast out there in Vegas from my gym. We got to find it takes finances, people.
There you go.
We
Keep
need it.
sending them super chats.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, one thing I will say is I'm very particular of the equipment. So if the equipment ain't right, I'm gonna have to hook you up. I'm gonna have to. You got cameras, you got microphones. What's your
They're
setup
bringing
out?
all that stuff in now. They just did the second level. They got the railings there. It's over the gym. They're bringing it all in. So maybe I can have you with the tech guys, tell them what's good, not good, and
Okay,
get them moving.
okay. And what is the purpose of starting this?
I
Are
don't
you
know. The,
starting a podcast?
one of the guys at the gym, he said, "Man, I think it would be cool to have a podcast room." And one of the reasons being is because a lot of the fighters, like what we're doing right now, a lot of times when they're training, they're doing this and that. They go to their cars to go do a podcast, or they go home to do a podcast, and they got to wait till they get home. So that gives them the access. So if you want to do something with them, say at 1 o'clock, and they're in and around that time in the gym, they could just go right up to the gym and do what we're doing right now, and
It
have
gives it a
access to time.
professional look. Gives it
Yeah,
a professional look.
yeah, that's right. And it makes it easier on them sometimes that they don't have to go home. They're dealing with their wife, their kids, or whatever the case may be. And, so that we decided to do that and evolving with the times.
Okay, all right. I'm really looking forward to my next Vegas trip. I was already looking forward to it, but hearing what's out there and how your new gym and how it has a podcast studio and I definitely can't wait for my next Vegas trip.
I can't wait.
But all right, Bob, thank you so much for
You got it.
for the
You
interview,
got it.
and yeah, we definitely got to do this more often. But
God bless you.
same to you, my man. All right, guys, that's the interview. Thank you so much, especially for those of you who stood all the way to the end. And if you stood all the way to the end with the me glitching out and my internet going out, I just want to say a little extra thank you to you. Definitely make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram, Broadway Joel. Follow me on Twitter @_ Broadway Joel. Go to BroadwayJoel.com and buy yourself a Dominican boxing shirt. And until next time, guys.